Hi everyone, this is Laura Hartwig, and during this time of COVID, it's even more important that we connect through Zoom. So I wanted to give you a quick tutorial on how to host a Zoom meeting. We're going to be doing that through the UUCC since we're going to be closed through January. So we're really encouraging groups to get together, committees to meet through Zoom instead. So if you're the chair of a committee or you're the head of a group, we really want you to use this couple of Zoom options that we have. So I'm going to walk you through real quick on the tools that you'll need to know to host a Zoom meeting. Now, I assume that most of you have been to a Zoom meeting, so you know what it's like to be a participant. So we're just going to go through the tools that you have when you're a host, so that you can see what your options are and what to expect from the people who are participants in your meeting. So one thing to know about the Zoom meeting is that when you hover your mouse over the screen, all these options at the bottom are going to come up. So they're going to allow you to do some basic things to control your meeting. So on the very left, you have the option to mute or to change which kind of microphone you're using. So this is really important that you test your microphone. You can see that option here. I've started a Zoom meeting and then found out my microphone wasn't working because I have two different microphone options for my computer. So it's super important that people be able to hear you. So be sure to test your microphone first to make sure that it's working and that people can hear you. So that's going to be especially important if you're the host. The video, you have the option to not have the video. I think it's a lot more engaging if you do have the video. If you're feeling comfortable about the video, you can do the virtual background option, but just be aware that that's only going to include your mostly head and face. So anything, if you do hand movements around, those aren't going to be really visible if you're using a virtual background. But just, open up and be personable and really consider allowing people to see you in your own setting there. Also, you want to make sure that when you're on the screen, of course, that you're front and center, that people can see you. This is probably a little dark here in my room, but make sure that people can see you and you're not to the side of the video or too tall, too short. Make sure that your face is front and center, because part of using Zoom is to get the facial expressions, and those are the things that we're missing on an audio call. So I really encourage you to use video if you're comfortable with it at all. Now, some of the new features that Zoom has integrated in the last month or two are these security features. And because there have been instances of Zoom bombing, which is people who were really uninvited find the link to the Zoom meeting and then join in and can do all kinds of disruptive things. So Zoom has instigated a bunch of security features, which we're going to talk about. But also it's important to know when you have a link to a Zoom meeting, don't share it on social media. Don't post it in a public place. The appropriate place to send out Zoom information is through private emails to your committee, to your group, to make sure that that they have that option to make that easy for them. So again, don't post Zoom links in public places. So when you click on the security option, you're going to see options to enable the waiting room. So that means that you have to allow each participant in individually. So of course, always ask that people put their first and last name so that you know who they are. Make sure they're recognizable. If there's the phone number, then you can rename people yourself. Just make sure you get their approval to do that. And we're going to talk about how to do that in a minute. You can lock the meeting. Once everybody's in there and you don't want anybody else to come in, feel free to lock the meeting. So it makes your meeting a little more secure. Now, by default, it's set up so that participants cannot share their screen. And this is probably a good idea as a default because a lot of new users, the share screen option, as you can see over here, is this big bright green icon in the middle. And we don't want people sharing information, private information on their computer that they may not realize they're sharing. So I just automatically it's set to off, so you probably want to keep it that way. If during the meeting you decide you want somebody else to share, you can always use this advanced sharing options, and you can come in here and then you can allow all participants to share their screen. And you can have those options if that's part of what you're doing in your meeting. So the share screen option is really great because if you want to share a Word document or a PowerPoint you're working on, or even a website, you can do that. And you simply click the share screen option, and then it's going to will come different options for you to share your entire screen or just a window on your screen. So when you are sharing a screen, of course, you want to make sure you don't have any sensitive information up on the screen for others to see. So when you press share screen, it's going to give you a bunch of different options as to which screen to share. So just be aware of that. And if you are planning to share your screen during the meeting, plan that to make sure that you don't have any private information up there. So other security options, see, I just changed that, so now it's checked, but I don't actually want them to share the screen, so I'm going to uncheck that again. Chat, sometimes maybe you don't want people to be able to chat, but in general I find it's helpful, especially if people need to give you feedback, and so people can ask questions while you're talking. So the chat option here, which is enabled by default, when you open that up, you're going to get this other window on the side that will allow people to put chat messages in there. And you can decide here who the chat goes to. By default, it goes to everybody. So if you want to send out a link, say you're talking about a particular website during the meeting, you can put that URL here in the chat box. Or if you have a link to anything else, a YouTube video or whatever else kind of links that you might want to put, or information, so that way if people don't have to spell something, so they'll know exactly what you're talking about. Right now I don't have any other participants with me, but if I did, I could use a drop down right here to choose a specific participant to chat with. So if I have something I want to tell John or Mary, but I don't necessarily want everybody else to see it, or it would be an interruption to the meeting and distracting for everyone to see it, I can chat with just them and they can chat with just me. So those are set by default. So you can leave that open if you want to see all the chats throughout the meeting and make sure that you don't miss it, or you can get rid of it. So, but the chats are very useful, and it's a good way for people to ask questions. So that's always enabled by default, but if you don't want that for some reason, you can disable it. The option for participants to rename themselves, that's a great thing to do. So especially if their participant name comes up as iPad or iPhone or something like that, and you want to know who they are so that you can remember them, and it's kind of like wearing a name tag. So of course, allow them to do that, encourage them to rename themselves. Before you rename somebody, make sure you have their permission to do that. In case for privacy reasons they're not comfortable with that. The option to unmute themselves. So when they come in, they'll probably be muted by default, but give them the option to unmute themselves in case they do have a question or they're not comfortable with the chat or unsure about how to use the chat. Going over things like the tools at the beginning of the meeting is always a good idea, especially for those people who are new to using Zoom. Another thing I want to say right up front is if you're planning to have a Zoom meeting, always go on at 5 to 10 minutes before, just to make sure, in case Zoom needs an update that you may have to do that may take a couple extra minutes. So you want to be at the meeting on time, especially if you have the waiting room enabled so that you have to allow people in. Make sure that you have that chance to check your speakers, check your microphone, do any kind of updates that Zoom needs. In case something happens, like the people need passwords or something like that, just be sure to go on a couple minutes before to make sure everything's set and ready to go before your participants start arriving. So when you have participants, they're going to be right here. So right now you see there's only one participant, me. So actually I'm going to go real quick and get an extra participant, me as well, on here so that we can see a little bit how a participant is going to look. So you see when another participant comes in, you're going to see the number of participants that are there always, and you'll be able to click on this and actually see who the participants are. You can ask to unmute them if you want them to speak. You can make them the host, the co-host. You can assign them to type closed captioning, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. We're going to allow them to record if you want. Maybe you've put them in charge of that. So recording, we're going to go over that a little bit more, but they have that option. Rename, here's what we were just talking about, and then put in the waiting room, or remove. So if you need to have some private discussion and you need somebody to step out of the room, so to speak, you can put them in the waiting room and then allow them back in once you've had the private discussion. If somebody has Zoom bomb you, you can remove them right there so that they can get rid of them in the room so they can stop the disruption. So all your participants will be there, and you have the option here to mute them, unmute them would be right there. So that's your participants. Chat we talked about already. Share screen we talked about already. Recording. So Zoom has the option to record the meetings, and sometimes that's useful if somebody wasn't able to attend and maybe they're going to want to be able to view the meeting later. During our Sunday services, we record the sermon and have that up and available later for you to view. Our account with Zoom allows for local recording. So if you or somebody you've assigned from the meeting decides to record the meeting, that's going to be downloaded automatically to your documents file in your computer, your own computer. So you can send that file to me if you want, if that's something that you want to be uploaded to our YouTube channel, or you can send it, it should be an MP4 file, so people will be able to view that on their own. So that's an option, but just be aware that it's going to download to your computer and you'll need to look for it and find it. And you can attach it to emails just like anything else. Probably because it's a video file, it's going to be a large file. So if you have any restrictions on how big of attachments that you can send, be aware that that might be a problem. So, but that's recording. The next option is closed captioning, and so far we haven't put this to a lot of use yet, but I'm hoping that we will in the future. So if you want to do closed captioning, you're going to either say, I will type myself, or you're going to assign a participant to type. And what will happen is say type, if you want to type, and you're going to just type in here, type in whatever you say, and on the participant screen, if it'll come up and it'll say closed captioning is available, and so they can click on that to allow that, and then whatever it is you type in here is going to be visible at the bottom of their screen. So if you have somebody hearing impaired, or if there's some reason that you need exact captioning, that closed captioning device option is available, so that you can use that or have somebody else use that. Right now we don't have, and they have the option to just show the subtitle or view in the full transcripts. So the transcripts would be right over here. The subtitles would be at the bottom, of course, and the more you type, the more shows up. And so again, that's going to be a transcript right there. So that's a really nice option if you have anybody who's hearing impaired, or or if you need the exact text. So so that is an option if you want to use that. And so if there is somebody who is hearing impaired and you can find somebody to do subtitles for you, that makes the meeting a lot more inclusive. So again, we're going to look into doing that more for the Sunday services. So something we're looking into. Breakout rooms. Now, if you join our Sunday services, at the end we have breakout rooms. And what this feature allows you to do is to assign participants into a certain number of rooms, however many rooms you want. So you can do that automatically, where Zoom just separates them and puts each one in the rooms, or you can do it manually and choose who's going to go into what room. So if you have specific committee groups that need to meet together, you can put them into those rooms so they can talk individually. Once you're in the breakout room, you'll have the option to rejoin the main meeting or leave entirely. So if you do use the breakout rooms, make sure people understand that they're going to be put into those rooms, and that when they leave the rooms, they'll come back to the main Zoom meeting, that they won't just automatically be kicked off the meeting entirely once they leave. So, so that's a nice option if you need to have breakout rooms, if you have a lot of people in your meeting. Okay, and the final thing I wanted to talk about is just these reactions. We haven't been using them a lot, but if somebody does something and you want to give them applause, you can hit the reaction button, and that's going to show up just for a little while in the corner of your screen there to know that you approve of whatever they did. You can see it's already gone away and I didn't do anything. So you can give them applause or a thumbs up option. So finally, when you end the meeting, you'll have the option to end it just for you or end it for everybody. If at all possible, end it for everybody, because you don't want the meeting to go on and then have people come on who may Zoom bomb you or use it for other purposes. We have a limited number of Zoom accounts, so we want to make sure those accounts are controlled. So as the host or co-host of the room, well, it's mainly the host, or if the host has already left and you're just the co-host and the host is left, make sure you end that for all meetings. Now, as we're getting started using these Zoom groups, we're going to have people from the Zoom committee help you get comfortable with Zoom, and they will start the meeting for you and then set you as a co-host so that you will have all these options to control the meeting. When you feel comfortable, they'll go ahead and take off and then leave you in control of the meeting. So again, that ending the meeting is going to be an important option for that. So I've covered the basic of the options that you have for using Zoom meetings. I'm also going to be doing a class on Zoom meetings, so if you want to know more, be sure to either contact me or or come take the class that we're going to have. And we're always here to support you, so I hope that you will use Zoom and really connect. It's so important to do now that the physical church is closed. So thanks so much. I hope this was helpful, and more to come. Thank you.